Hey riders, Eric with Ride Adventures here. Kind of a different video today. I did want to talk with Joe Bacal, who was introduced recently in a video we did about tires. Yeah. Trying to give you the best insight possible to becoming the best tire tester, choosing the right tire for your bike and your situation. I want to go a little further, since Joe's got a great background in all forms of power sports, shall we say, and wanting to kind of catapult off the requests of our readers and our people that comment on our videos, and like, what else could we possibly do as sort of a team sharing expertise on these topics to help break down the barriers that might be stopping people from getting on an adventure bike or any motorcycle and getting out there and doing the types of exploration and world travel that they ultimately want to do, but there might be blocks and barricades in the way. You know, our training, our Adventure Rider training program has been a great success, both in Pahrump, just outside of Las Vegas, and over up in Bend, Oregon, where we are based. Any ideas that come to mind, like what else could riders be, you know, missing out on that we could help with in terms of breaking through those fears, even if it's just the fear of what happens when you get on a motorcycle? Like I'm reminded that, so about a year or two ago, something like that, I started pointing out to adventure riders and aspiring adventure riders that there's perhaps a lot to be learned just by paying attention to the athleticism that is motocross racing. Made a couple of videos. We did a group trip and went up to Washougal for AMA Motocross, the national up at Washougal, and trying to, again, encourage riders who are trying to make sure they're riding their best and not taking falls and not taking hits, and they're able to avoid all the things that get in the way out there. Again, I just think that looking and watching professionals at what they do, just like with basketball or golf or whatever it is, there's something to be learned at least by visually participating in something.
I can add to that. So basically, from being a professional driver for so many years and racing down in Baja, if I wasn't prepared from a you know, just working out, you know, at the gym, all the different types of nutrition and supplements that I was taking, you have to be prepared. And this goes right into the motorcycle side. If you start getting tired, you start making mistakes, and that's what happens in racing. People end up upside down, or they end up crashing because the fatigue sets in, and they're not trained. They didn't train hard enough, or they weren't prepared, or they didn't do their homework from the surfaces and doing all their pre-running, and that matters. So just because your bike's all dialed in doesn't mean you're dialed in.
Good point. You can have all the fittings and farkles on your bike. If you yourself are not fit for this stuff, if you're even as simple as dehydration, well, you know, I guess apparently a lot of us are probably a little more dehydrated, not drinking as much water as we should. Things like that slow all of your functioning, and I'm not trying to play doctor or anything like that here, but you're right, being physically fit, mentally fit, hydrated properly, proper nutrition.
I think the other thing too is when you get to the point where you're so tired, let's say you're on an adventure bike ride and you're riding, you've got maybe you're going through some mountains or some technical terrain, your hands start locking up from a lot of clutch work and just things like that. Take a break. You know what? You're going to make a mistake, and you're going to end up putting the bike on the ground. Get off the bike, walk around, get something to eat, take a break, and then and enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
I think people tend to want to, hey, if they're not taking a break, I'm not going to take a break. Yeah. But you know what? That's where the communication comes in, and that's where a good lead from an instructor standpoint comes in. As a guide, you need to look at your people and evaluate them, and then like, we need to take a break, and here's why. And it's okay. We're not racing. It's just for fun.
You said it though. That definitely get a bunch of group guys together, and nobody wants to be the one to sort of like tap out. Nobody wants to admit that they're tired or whatever. And on the front end of any riding day or any riding trip is just that sort of anxiety that can come with all the prepping and packing and planning, and you might forget to take care of yourself in the lead up to that, and then all of a sudden it's ride day one and you're just extra nervous. Well, maybe you're in a foreign country or something like that, and it adds to the levels of anxiety, and so there's a lot that can go wrong without preparation.
Well, and this goes back to my racing as well. I would see other racers eating their Snickers and drinking the Red Bulls, and I'm like, well, you're not going to go very far because you're going to crash, meaning, from a sugar crash. Yeah. And so having the right supplements, from a just electrolytes and things like that. Stay away from the sugars if you can, but I'm like, it really matters, because I'm telling you, it makes a massive difference. You get to a point and you just hit a wall.
I've definitely felt the sugar crash before. Some people, your body, you know what works for you best and everything. Andy Ruiz, I believe, before fighting Anthony Joshua and taking the heavyweight championship, He did eat Snickers. There's some people Snickers bars are the right thing specifically, but for others it's probably more of a nutritious breakfast that doesn't involve a sugar rush like that.
For sure.
But what else can we think of to help make sure people are not letting fear or the unknown keep them from getting one of these bikes and doing the types of travel?
I think what I noticed is you get people that ride motorcycles their whole life. I've been on bikes since I was a little kid, racing motocross. I'm comfortable jumping on a bike, any kind of bike, from Harleys to adventure bikes. It doesn't matter. I'm comfortable. But then you have your new riders who recently got their motorcycle license, and they're a little bit timid, and they should be. But it's okay to jump on a small dirt bike and just get used to hitting the brakes and you know, getting in the corners and giving it throttle and clutch work. You know, get used to something a little smaller before you just jump right on these adventure bikes, because they're big and they're heavy and they're powerful. So it's okay, especially on the new riders. They always ask me, oh, you know, what should I do to prepare for an adventure ride? Well, ride another bike and just, that's a little bit easier and maybe even test yourself in some difficult terrain, because the last thing you want to do is be on your adventure bike in a situation where you're riding over your head.
Yeah.
So,
or physically over your head, as far as being able to lift something so big. Definitely. Great point. We've talked about that in other videos, being able to sort of like stepping stone your way into this. I've seen riders that don't ride as much as they would ultimately want to or have planned to because they've got too big of a bike and it just doesn't feel comfortable for them to throw a leg over it. So excellent point to start with something more small to mid-size, if so warranted.
I think so. It's only going to help you.
I'd been riding motorcycles or mini bikes or dirt bikes or whatever all the time growing up as a kid. Didn't get my actual motorcycle endorsement until I set out across the world and was riding down to South America. But like I think about that fear of being amongst other vehicles. At some point we are all using, right? Unless you're on a pure dirt machine. We're all on highways and roads with other cars. You got to go get gas. You got to go get food or whatever.
That's right.
And getting over that image of, you know, cars and motorcycles colliding was a major thing for me to get over.
So what I would suggest, especially when you're on the highway, is people are texting. People are not paying attention to motorcycle riders at all. In my opinion, I mean, now I'm like really like, man, you got to have your head on a swivel for sure. Take the time to just give yourself enough room. When cars start to come to a stop, obviously you want to look in that mirror. You got to be looking in that mirror. And if you ever jump on that shoulder to avoid anything, you do it. I mean, you have to be super assertive and you have to be comfortable riding your bike in a situation where you don't want to think about, oh, how do I use this clutch and, you know, where's the brake lever? I mean, if you have to think about things like that, it's game over. You know, as a racer, I'm throwing the cars and trucks. I mean, I'm throwing these things sideways in my sleep. Truly, I mean, I literally don't have to think about it, and it's completely natural because I've done it for so many years. You need to be like that on a motorcycle. You need to be able to think about what's happening around you, and all the different types of maneuvers are just a natural progression of what comes next.
Yeah, that reflex that becomes automatic after
Exactly.
enough time and practice, just like Danny LaRusso, wax on, wax off, paint the fence up and down. It's like it becomes automatic. And I think that's hopefully a starting point for some riders, is to get really good on the bike, off the pavement first. A lot to be said about learning not through your local, you know, state-sanctioned riding program or whatever, which is going to put you on pavement right away, but to find an opportunity to be in the dirt and learn total command of that machine and how your inputs respond and what comes out of it.
I think bringing up this point too, so I rode my 1190R adventure basically to Cabo from Phoenix one time, and I've been riding and racing my whole life, right? This is what I do. Like, I'm comfortable. Well, I jumped on this adventure bike, and I'm in some pretty interesting places down in Baja on this 1190R, and I'm like, I'm over my head. I'm like, well, how am I over my head? I've been riding my entire life. I'm over my head because the bike is just too big for me. It's too heavy, and I'm just not being able to maneuver it the way I normally would, and especially sand. So I actually felt like a beginner in some areas. I'm like, what is happening? So just because you have all this experience, make sure you pick the right bike. So I loved my 1190R adventure on the pavement. It was amazing. I hit some dirt roads, no problem. As soon as it got super technical or sandy, I was in trouble. So I got rid of that and got the 701. I mean, I thought it was the right bike, but it truly wasn't for me.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't know until you try and put your foot down in that soft sand or gravel first, and you realize the angles and the reaches aren't quite there or whatever.
I've been riding so many years, I can't ride this motorcycle. Like, that's not okay.
Twice the weight, a lot bigger.
I'm not a big guy either.
Well,
So,
and
yeah.
1190R is a big bike, so.
Yeah.
Try to
I'll tell you what I think is important, and this is maybe not so much on the riding side of it, but it's preparation. So it's so important to just, when you wash your motorcycle, and then again, this is just common sense, but I'm like, check your bolts, look at things, that things look loose. I mean, a new rider doesn't know this because it's not really ingrained in them, you know.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is educate you guys in the fact that, listen, if you're a fairly new rider, especially in the off-road side, bolts come loose. They just do. Check your bike as much as you possibly can. You know, your chain tension, get the oil on that chain. You know, just, it's so important that I think it's missed with new riders, and you just have. That's how accidents happen. That's how you end up getting broken in the middle of nowhere because you didn't do the prep.
Yeah, do a proper safety inspection. Remove the doubt that there could be anything wrong with your bike before hopping on it, and remove, of course, the
But like for us,
possibility.
it's just a normal thing. But for new riders, it's not.
Yeah, it might not be exactly, and people probably don't appreciate how much things can loosen up when they're taking the pound. You get that washboard vibration in the gravel roads or whatever. It's you can blue or red Loctite forever, and something's going to eventually
Yeah.
come loose.
Anyway, just something I was thinking that might be helpful.
Okay. Well, I guess the main thing is that if folks feel free to write into us, the comments below, we do check those comments below our videos. If there are questions, things we can do to help you get through that. Of course, advanced level training or even basic level training can get you through a lot of painful ways of learning. I guess, you know, a lot of things out there I think you could probably pick up and just sort of run with. But motorcycle training, there's a good chance a new rider has got the right body position and the right techniques and using the controls the right way, but it's good to have a pro check that stuff for you and help you maybe avoid some of those expensive and painful mistakes that happen.
I mean, a good instructor, a good guide, especially at your schools. I mean, you can look at a motorcycle rider in 2 seconds going, okay, I can see some things that we can work on, you know, just from a riding position standpoint. You know, maybe the bike isn't set up correctly, you're nervous, you're tight, you know, those things we pick up as instructors really fast. Like, and that's why you get the training, because we're able to see things that you don't.
And a lot of that not only plays toward safe riding, successful riding, but reducing fatigue on that ride, which goes back, we talked about making sure you're prepared physically and fit and hydrated to do this stuff well. While you are riding, let's make sure you're not doing it in a way that's exhausting yourself, such that it's hard to finish most days or whatever, or that you're the tired one not finishing the day or something.
And I usually find this out the hard way, but if I don't have the right gear, I get tired. I'm cold. I'm wet. Like, you know, having the right gears, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
So it really does.
Actual studies have been done on that, showing that if we are cold, if you are not properly staying warm due to a lack of waterproof or temperature or whatever it was, you know, we are this big electrochemical reaction that does slow down if we are cold, and slowing down your reaction timing. Well, I don't have to hopefully tell people that's not a good idea.
Probably don't want to be in a motorcycle at that point.
You do not want to, because if you have to make that last second move, that decision, and so excellent point. Your riding gear itself is, of course, a whole different topic in video.
What we used to say in Baja, like, from the preparation side, is everything is important. You know, your chase guides are important. Your motorcycles, your truck. I mean, everything has to be thought through, especially on a Baja 1000. Like, you have to have it dialed in, because one thing that's missed is going to end your race.
A lot of moving pieces in these
sure.
successful travel and safe motorcycle riding. Thanks for watching, everyone. Again, Joe Bacal sitting here with Eric Lange, and just do write in if we can help, or give a call or whatever, if there's something we can do to help make sure you're not staying at home instead of actually out doing these types of things. That's what we want to push forward. So
yeah, for sure. You can only read so much in a book.
yeah, it's part of it. It's actually doing it yourself too. So yeah. So thanks for watching, everyone.